after it seized Mischief Reef in 1995, China then seized Scarborough Shoal in 2012. 13 years later, this September, it established a nature reserve at Scarborough Shoal, known as Minzu Reef in Taiwan, banning Philippine access, even though the 2016 arbitral ruling decreed that the shoal is the traditional fishing ground of the Philippines, China, Vietnam. Many analysts believe China's actions mean it will militarize the shoal next. Justice Carpio, if I can bring you in, but you had already predicted this in 2011. Can you explain how you forecast this and what is China's strategic obsession with Scarborough Shoal?
Well, we go back to Fiery Cross Reef, 1997, when China established a radar weather station in Fiery Cross Reef in the Spratlys. And China announced at the time that it was just trying to help UNESCO in its global oceanic survey. So it was an environmental approach, and nobody complained because China was trying to help UNESCO in its global oceanic survey. But today, Fiery Cross Reef is a air and naval base of China with a 3-kilometer long runway, and all airplanes, bombers of China can take off and land in that airstrip. And so China is replicating this again in Scarborough Shoal. China is saying we are just putting up a nature reserve, and we will probably put up a monitoring station, just like the radar weather station that China established in 1997 in Fiery Cross Reef. And later on, it will expand into a air and naval base, and that's the approach of China. And the China used this approach also in Mischief Reef. In 1995, China seized Mischief Reef and said, we are just putting a fisherman's shelter. And now that fisherman's shelter is the largest air and naval base of China in the Spratlys. It has a 3-kilometer runway, defended with anti-ship missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, fully operational air and naval base. So that's why I'm saying China will do the same in Scarborough Shoal, because China needs a triangle of air and naval bases in the Spratlys, in the Paracels in Woody Island, and in Scarborough Shoal, so that it can control the entire South China Sea. Right now, there are gaps in its control because its fighter jets and its missiles cannot reach the entire area in the north of, in the area of Scarborough Shoal. So China will put up an air and naval bases in Scarborough, and this will help China in the invasion of Taiwan because it's very close. Mm-hmm. And in case of if China invades Taiwan, they will have to close the Bassi Channel, and they need an air and naval base in Scarborough Shoal to close the Bassi Channel. Mm. So this is all connected.
A very good point there. Bringing Bill back in, therefore, are you surprised China has acted so slowly at Scarborough Shoal? And, you know, we're talking 1990s, 2010s. Now everybody's on to China. So can China be stopped from militarizing Scarborough Shoal?
It's a really good question. And I think there's a lot of stuff to do with US-China, Philippines relations that remains hidden, and we maybe will only find out about it, you know, when things are declassified in future years. There was a very interesting story that came out in 2016 towards the end of the Obama administration, when it was suggested by some reporting out of Washington that the Americans had suspected that China was about to occupy and build something on Scarborough Shoal, and that they were readying like dredging vessels and construction equipment to go and build there. And the Obama administration deployed A-10 attack aircraft to the Philippines. I mean, but that part we know is true because we saw them. But the messaging apparently from the Americans to the Chinese at that point was that if the Americans see those dredging ships and other equipment moving towards Scarborough Shoal, they will be attacked by the American planes. And nothing happened. Now, we don't know whether this is true, but it was never denied by anybody, this report. So maybe it was a blunt warning of military action that prevented China from building on the Scarborough Shoal back in 2016, And maybe those warnings have held firm until now. But of course, there are so many other things in play at the moment with the US-China relationship. And obviously, Donald Trump is thinking about Ukraine and Gaza and winning a Nobel Peace Prize. Maybe he's not entirely focused on the Scarborough Shoal. So it is possible, of course, that the Chinese think they might have another attempt. And by talking about a nature reserve, who could possibly object to a nature reserve? And then maybe I think that the Chinese might just be trying their luck again and waiting for the response and seeing what happens.